It all started on a chilly October evening. The stadium lights were blazing and the crowd was buzzing with excitement. Everyone had gathered to witness what would later be called one of the most unforgettable nights in basketball history. The center of it all was a young player who had been making waves for months, Caitlin Clark. She wasn't just any athlete. She was someone who could light up the court with her energy, skill, and determination. And that night she didn't disappoint. From the opening tip-off, Caitlin took control of the game. Her first move, a perfectly timed steal followed by a smooth crossover dribble that left her defender stumbling. Then came the shot, a deep three-pointer from way beyond the arc. Swish, the crowd erupted. It wasn't just the points that got people cheering. It was the sheer audacity of it. Who shoots from there? Only someone with ice in their veins. As the game progressed, Caitlin kept delivering jaw-dropping moments. Every pass she made seemed to have eyes, finding teammates in impossible situations. Every rebound she grabbed felt like a statement. This is my house. But it wasn't just her stats that stood out, it was her presence. She played like she belonged on that court. Not because she thought she deserved to be there, but because she worked harder than anyone else to earn it. Her team wasn't supposed to win that night. They were the underdogs, written off by analysts and fans alike. Their opponents were stacked with veteran players, seasoned pros who had seen it all. Yet, as the clock ticked down, Caitlin refused to let them falter. With less than a minute left and the score tied, she pulled off a play that no one saw coming, driving into the paint, drawing multiple defenders, and then, just when everyone expected her to shoot, she dished the ball to an open teammate for the winning basket. Horn sounded. Game over. Victory belonged to the underdogs. The arena went wild. Fans jumped to their feet, hugging strangers, screaming at the top of their lungs. Social media exploded. People who hadn't paid attention to women's basketball before were suddenly glued to their screens, watching replays of Caitlin's every move. Commentators couldn't stop talking about her. Analysts debated whether this performance would change the game forever. Was this the moment the WNBA truly broke through to mainstream audiences? Back home, sitting in his living room, Charles Barkley watched the entire thing unfold. He leaned back on his couch, remote in hand, shaking his head in disbelief. As a former NBA legend turned outspoken TV personality, Barkley had seen plenty of great games and incredible players. But something about Caitlin caught his eye. Maybe it was her confidence. Maybe it was the way she carried herself under pressure. Whatever it was, he knew one thing for sure. This girl had star power. But as impressed as he was, Barkley also had questions. Could one player really carry an entire league? Sure, Caitlin was amazing, but what about the rest of the WNBA? Would her success overshadow other talented athletes? Or would it inspire more people to tune in and support the sport? These thoughts lingered in his mind long after the final buzzer sounded. Little did he know, this game, and Caitlin's historic performance, would spark a debate that would ripple far beyond the basketball court. It would bring two strong personalities face to face, forcing them to confront differing views about the future of women's sports. And it all began with one unforgettable night, where a rising star proved that sometimes legends are born right before our eyes. The morning after Caitlin Clark's legendary game, the buzz was everywhere. News outlets couldn't stop talking about her record-breaking performance. Social media timelines were flooded with highlights, memes, and debates. Was this the moment women's basketball finally got the recognition it deserved? While most fans celebrated Caitlin's brilliance, others wondered what it meant for the rest of the league. And no one felt the weight of those questions more than A'ja Wilson. A'ja wasn't just another player in the WNBA, she was its face. As the reigning MVP, she carried the responsibility of being a role model, advocate, and ambassador for the sport. She had spent years fighting to elevate the league, pushing back against critics who dismissed it as less exciting or less important than men's basketball. For her, the WNBA wasn't just about individual stars. It was about teamwork, resilience, and proving that women could dominate the court just as fiercely as anyone else. So when the talk shows started inviting guests to discuss Caitlin's historic win, A'ja knew she had to speak up. She didn't want people to focus solely on one player, no matter how incredible they were. This was bigger than Caitlin. It was about the entire league and the countless athletes who poured their hearts into every practice, every game, every season. Determined to make her voice heard, she accepted an invitation to appear on a popular sports panel show. Little did she know this decision would put her directly in the crosshairs of one of the most outspoken personalities in sports, Charles Barkley. The set was lively that day, filled with cameras, bright lights, and a buzzing audience. Aja walked onto the stage wearing a sharp blazer, her confidence unwavering. She greeted the hosts warmly before taking her seat at the table. The conversation began innocently enough, with everyone praising Caitlin's performance. But it didn't take long for things to shift. One of the co-hosts turned to Aja and asked, "What do you think about Caitlin's impact on the league? Do you think having a breakout star like her is good for the WNBA?" Aja leaned forward, her expression thoughtful but firm. "Absolutely," she said. "Caitlin is amazing, and last night proved why she's such a special talent. But let's not forget, the WNBA isn't built on just one player. It's built on the hard work of hundreds of athletes who grind every single day to make this league what it is. Caitlin's success doesn't diminish anyone else's contributions. If anything, it shows how deep the talent pool is." Her words resonated with some viewers, but Charles Barkley wasn't convinced. Sitting across from her, he raised an eyebrow and leaned back in his chair. "I hear you, Aja," he said, his tone casual but loaded. "But come on, let's be real. Stars sell tickets. That's how sports work. People tune in to see greatness, to see someone stand out. Last night, Caitlin did exactly that. She didn't need the whole team narrative, she carried the game herself." The room fell silent for a moment. Even the audience seemed unsure how to react. Aja took a deep breath, choosing her next words carefully. "I get where you're coming from, Charles," she replied calmly. "But we can't reduce the league to just one person. Yes, Caitlin is extraordinary, but so are the other players. So are the coaches, the trainers, the staff behind the scenes. The WNBA thrives because of its unity, not just because of one superstar." Barkley smirked, clearly enjoying the debate. "Unity? Sounds nice, Aja," he shot back. "But let's face it, unity doesn't sell jerseys. Unity doesn't bring in new fans. What sells is personality. What brings people in is excitement. And right now, Caitlin is giving them both." The tension between them was palpable. Aja clenched her jaw slightly but kept her composure. She knew Barkley loved stirring the pot, but she also knew he wasn't entirely wrong. The league did need more visibility. It did need stars who could captivate audiences, but she believed there was room for both. The collective spirit of the WNBA and the individual brilliance of players like Caitlin. "You're missing the point, Charles," she said firmly. "It's not either or. We can celebrate Caitlin while still honoring the team. Her success doesn't erase the fact that basketball is a team sport. And honestly, if we start focusing too much on individuals, we risk losing sight of what makes the WNBA unique." The rest of the segment continued in much the same vein, with Barkley poking holes in Aja's arguments and Aja standing her ground. By the time the show ended, neither side had budged. But something else had happened. People were talking. Fans, analysts, and even casual viewers weighed in, debating whether Barkley's take was harsh but accurate or completely off base. Social media lit up with hashtags supporting both Caitlin and the broader league. The conversation had officially gone viral. For Aja, the experience was draining but validating. She knew she couldn't please everyone, especially not someone as stubborn as Barkley. But she also knew she had spoken her truth. The WNBA wasn't perfect, and it still faced challenges, but it was growing. Every game, every highlight, every passionate argument like this one brought it closer to the recognition it deserved. As she left the studio that evening, Aja felt a mix of frustration and determination. She glanced at her phone, scrolling through the flood of messages from friends, teammates, and fans. Some thanked her for defending the league. Others criticized her for clashing with Barkley. But one message stood out, A simple text from a young fan that read, "Thank you for reminding us that we're all part of something bigger." That night, as she lay in bed replaying the day's events, Aja realized something important. This wasn't just about her or Barkley or even Caitlin. It was about the future of women's basketball. And she wasn't going to let anyone overshadow the hard work and dedication that made the league what it was today. The next morning, the debate between Aja Wilson and Charles Barkley was everywhere. Social media timelines were ablaze with reactions. Some people agreed with Barkley, praising his blunt honesty. Others rallied behind Aja, applauding her passion for the league. But one thing was clear: Barkley wasn't done yet. If anything, he was just getting started. Later that day, Barkley appeared on another episode of the same sports talk show. This time, it was a solo segment, giving him the floor to expand on his views. Sitting in his usual spot at the round table, he leaned forward, looking directly into the camera as if addressing every single viewer personally. His tone was calm but firm, the kind that made people stop scrolling and pay attention. "Let me tell you something," he began, his voice carrying that trademark mix of charm and defiance. "I respect Aja Wilson. She's a great player, an incredible leader. But let's not kid ourselves here. The WNBA isn't growing because of teamwork or unity. Those are nice words, sure, but they don't sell tickets. They don't bring in sponsors. What sells? Stars, personalities, players who make you sit up and say, 'Wow, I gotta watch this.'" He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he continued, pointing to the screen where replays of Caitlin Clark's game-winning moments played in the background. "Look at Caitlin. Last night, she didn't just play basketball, she put on a show. She made people care. And that's what the league needs more of. Not just good players, but unforgettable ones." The audience murmured in agreement, nodding along as Barkley spoke. He had a way of cutting through the noise, boiling complex issues down to simple truths, or at least truths that sounded simple enough to stick. But his argument went deeper than just Caitlin. He believed the WNBA had been holding itself back by clinging to outdated ideas about equality and teamwork. "You can't market a league based on fairness alone," he said, leaning back in his chair now, gesturing emphatically. "People want drama. They want excitement. They want someone to root for. When you try to sell everyone equally, nobody stands out. And when nobody stands out, fans lose interest. It's not rocket science." To drive his point home, Barkley brought up examples from other sports. He talked about how Michael Jordan elevated the NBA in the 90s, turning it into a global phenomenon. He mentioned Serena Williams and how her dominance kept tennis relevant, even when the sport struggled to attract younger audiences. "These athletes didn't wait for their leagues to grow around them," he said. "They grew the leagues themselves. That's what Caitlin is doing right now, and Aja needs to understand that." His comments sparked immediate reactions. Viewers flooded social media, some agreeing wholeheartedly, others pushing back fiercely. Analysts debated whether Barkley's approach was too harsh or refreshingly honest. Even former WNBA players weighed in, sharing their thoughts on how much emphasis should be placed on individual stars versus team dynamics. Meanwhile, Aja watched all of this unfold from her hotel room. She had tuned in to see what Barkley would say, curious if he'd soften his stance after their heated exchange. Instead, she found herself staring at the screen, frustration bubbling inside her. It wasn't just his words that bothered her. It was the dismissive tone, the implication that everything she and her teammates had worked for was secondary to a handful of standout performances. She grabbed her phone and scrolled through Twitter, reading comments from fans. Many supported her, praising her for standing up for the league. But there were also plenty of critiques, people accusing her of being defensive or unwilling to adapt. One tweet stuck out: "If Aja wants the WNBA to succeed, maybe she should listen to Barkley instead of arguing with him." That comment hit a nerve. Aja tossed her phone onto the bed and stood up, pacing back and forth across the room. Was she wrong to defend the league the way she did? Did Barkley have a point? She thought about all the sacrifices she and her teammates had made, The early mornings, the late nights, the injuries, the endless travel. None of that mattered to Barkley, apparently. To him, it was all about the glitz and glamour. The star, power that drew crowds and sold merchandise. But deep down, Aja knew better. Yes, stars like Caitlin were important. They brought attention, excitement, and new fans. But without the foundation, the hard work of everyone else, the league wouldn't survive. It couldn't survive. And that's what Barkley didn't seem to understand. Still, she couldn't deny that his words carried weight. For years, she had fought to elevate the WNBA, advocating for equal pay, better facilities, and more media coverage. Yet despite those efforts, the league still struggled to break into mainstream conversations. Maybe Barkley was right about one thing. The WNBA needed more visibility. But at what cost? Should they sacrifice their values like teamwork, inclusivity, and community, for the sake? From her hotel window, Aja looked out at the city skyline, lost in thought. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She felt torn between two worlds, the idealistic vision of the league she loved and the pragmatic reality of what it took to grow it. For now, though, she decided to focus on what she could control. Tomorrow was a new day, another chance to prove that the WNBA was more than just its brightest stars. It was a family, a movement, a testament to resilience. And no matter what Barkley said, she wouldn't let anyone take that away. By the time the sun rose the next morning, the internet was ablaze. Charles Barkley's latest comments had taken on a life of their own. Social media feeds were flooded with memes, hot takes, and passionate arguments. On one side, fans praised Barkley for his boldness, saying he was simply telling it like it is. On the other, supporters of Aja Wilson defended her stance, accusing Barkley of undermining the very essence of the WNBA. The debate wasn't just about basketball anymore, it was personal. Aja woke up to a barrage of notifications on her phone. Her mentions were blowing up, filled with both love and hate. Some messages thanked her for standing up for the league, calling her a hero. Others criticized her for being too defensive or unwilling to adapt. One tweet caught her eye. "If you really cared about the WNBA, you'd listen to Barkley instead of arguing with him." It stung, but she didn't let it get to her. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about something bigger. Later that day, Aja decided to respond, not with anger, but with action. She posted a video on Twitter, speaking directly to her followers. In the clip, she sat in her hotel room, looking calm and composed. Behind her, the city skyline glowed softly in the afternoon light. "I've seen a lot of opinions flying around," she began, her voice steady but warm. "And I want to say thank you to everyone who's shown support. But I also want to address what's been said. Yes, stars matter. Caitlin Clark proved that last night, and we should celebrate her for it. But the WNBA isn't just about one player. It's about all of us, the teammates, the coaches, the trainers, the fans. We're building something together, and that's worth fighting for." Her message resonated. Within hours, the video went viral, racking up millions of views. Fans applauded her grace under fire, while critics accused her of dodging the real issue. Meanwhile, Barkley saw the clip and wasted no time responding. During his next appearance on TV, he leaned into the controversy even further. "You know what I love about Aja," he said with a smirk, addressing the camera as if he were talking to her directly. "She's tough. She doesn't back down. But here's the thing. She's wrong. You can't keep pretending the league doesn't need more star power. Caitlin Clark doesn't need defenders like Aja. She creates her own legacy. And that's what the WNBA needs. Legends, not committees." The audience erupted in laughter and applause, eating up Barkley's sharp wit. But his words only fueled the growing divide. Analysts debated whether he was helping or hurting the league. Former players weighed in, some agreeing with Barkley's push for individual brilliance, others siding with Aja's emphasis on teamwork. Even casual fans joined the conversation, sharing their thoughts on forums, podcasts, and comment sections. As the days passed, the feud became impossible to ignore. Late-night talk show hosts joked about it. Sports podcasts dedicated entire episodes to dissecting the clash. Memes popped up everywhere, poking fun at both sides. One popular image showed Barkley as a villain in a wrestling ring, with a jaw standing across from him ready to fight. The caption read, "Round 3, who will win?" But amid all the noise, something unexpected happened. People started paying attention to the WNBA in ways they never had before. Viewership numbers spiked, merchandise sales surged, even sponsors took notice, reaching out to the league with offers of partnerships. Whether intentional or not, the Barkley-Wilson feud had brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. For Aja, though, the spotlight came with a price. Everywhere she went, people wanted to talk about the debate. Reporters hounded her after games, asking for her thoughts on Barkley's latest remarks. Opposing players teased her during warm-ups, joking about the war of words. At first, it felt overwhelming, but over time, she realized something important. This wasn't just about her or Barkley. It was an opportunity, a chance to shine, a light on the league she loved. Determined to make the most of it, Aja shifted her focus. Instead of dwelling on the feud, she channeled her energy into action. She organized a charity event aimed at promoting grassroots basketball programs for young girls. The initiative wasn't flashy or glamorous. It was about giving back, about showing the next generation that basketball could be a pathway to success. Dozens of kids showed up, eager to learn from one of the best players in the world. Aja spent hours signing autographs, taking photos, and teaching drills. For the first time in days, she felt grounded, reminded of why she played the game in the first place. Meanwhile, Barkley continued stirring the pot, doubling down on his original stance. He appeared on yet another show, mocking Aja's charity efforts as damage control and praising Caitlin Clark once again. "Look, I'm not saying Aja isn't a great player," he said. "But when you're trying to grow a league, you don't need cookie-cutter role models. You need icons, and right now Caitlin is the icon." His comments drew mixed reactions. Some viewers appreciated his honesty, while others accused him of being unnecessarily harsh. What surprised everyone, though, was how much traction Aja's charity work gained. Fans rallied behind her, donating money and spreading awareness about the event. Sponsors offered free gear for the kids, and local businesses provided food and supplies. By the end of the day, the charity event had raised tens of thousands of dollars, all thanks to Aja's determination to rise above the drama. As the weeks went by, the feud between Barkley and Aja began to fade from the headlines. Other stories took center stage. Caitlin Clark's continued dominance, thrilling playoff matchups, and record-breaking attendance numbers. But the impact of their clash lingered. People were talking about the WNBA more than ever before. New fans tuned in to watch games, curious to see what all the hype was about. Old fans returned, excited to witness history unfold. For Aja, the experience was bittersweet. She had endured criticism, mockery, and endless scrutiny. But she had also grown stronger, more resilient. The feud taught her an important lesson. Sometimes progress comes from conflict. Without Barkley's provocations, would the league have received the same level of attention? Would people have cared as much? Maybe not. One evening, as she sat alone in her hotel room, Aja reflected on everything that had happened. She scrolled through her phone, reading messages from young fans who thanked her for inspiring them to pick up a basketball. She smiled, feeling a sense of pride wash over her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for sure. The WNBA was worth fighting for, and she wasn't going to stop anytime soon. As the weeks rolled by, the dust from the Barkley-Wilson feud began to settle. The internet moved on to the next big thing, as it always does. But for Aja Wilson, the aftermath of the debate lingered. It wasn't just about what Charles Barkley had said or how people had reacted. It was about proving that her vision for the WNBA wasn't just words. It was real, and she was ready to show it. One afternoon, after a grueling practice session, Aja sat in the locker room with her teammates. They were laughing, joking around, and unwinding after hours of drills. Someone brought up Barkley's latest comments, mimicking his voice and making everyone crack up. For a moment, the tension melted away. replaced by camaraderie and shared purpose. But when the laughter died down, one of her teammates turned serious. "You know," the teammate said, "Barkley might have a point about stars selling tickets, but what he doesn't get is that we're all part of something bigger. You've been saying that since day one, and you're right. We win together, lose together, and grow together." Aja nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. She appreciated the support, but deep down, she knew actions spoke louder than words. If she wanted to counter Barkley's argument, she needed to do more than defend the league. She needed to lead by example. So she came up with a plan. The following week, Aja announced the launch of a new initiative called Game Changers. The program aimed to provide resources and opportunities for young girls who dreamed of playing basketball, but didn't have access to proper training or equipment. From free clinics to mentorship programs, Aja poured her heart into every detail. She even reached out to other players across the league asking them to join the cause. To her delight, they responded enthusiastically, eager to give back to the community that had supported them. The first event took place on a sunny Saturday morning at a local gym. Hundreds of kids showed up, their faces lighting up as they saw Aja walk through the doors. She greeted each child personally, taking time to ask their names and listen to their stories. Some were shy, others brimming with confidence, but all shared one thing in common: a love for basketball. Throughout the day, Aja and her fellow players ran drills, shared tips, and encouraged the kids to push themselves beyond their limits. There were moments of frustration when a shot wouldn't fall or a pass went awry, but there were also bursts of joy when someone finally nailed a three-pointer or executed a perfect crossover. By the end of the event, the gym buzzed with excitement, filled with high fives, hugs, and promises to keep practicing. What made the day truly special, though, was the sense of connection. Parents approached Aja, tears in their eyes, thanking her for giving their daughters role models to look up to. Young girls lined up to take selfies with her, gushing about how much they admired her game and her character. For Aja, these interactions meant everything. This was why she played, not for fame or fortune, but to inspire the next generation. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley watched the event unfold from afar. At first, he dismissed it as a PR stunt, another attempt to silence critics. But as he scrolled through photos and videos of Aja interacting with the kids, something shifted. He saw the genuine smiles, the spark in the children's eyes, the way they hung onto her every word. It reminded him of his own childhood, growing up in Alabama, dreaming of becoming a basketball star. Back then, he hadn't cared about jerseys or sponsors. He just wanted someone to believe in him. For the first time, Barkley started questioning his stance. Sure, Caitlin Clark was electrifying, and yes, stars could bring attention to the league. But maybe Aja was onto something, too. Maybe the WNBA's strength lay not just in its individual talents, but in its ability to unite people, to create a space where everyone felt valued. Still, he wasn't ready to admit he was wrong, at least not publicly. Instead, he continued his usual routine, appearing on TV shows and cracking jokes about the league. But his tone softened slightly. When asked about Aja during an interview, he shrugged and said, "She's doing good work. I'll give her that. Maybe she's got a point about teamwork. Doesn't mean I'm changing my mind, though." Despite his reluctance to fully concede, Barkley's subtle shift didn't go unnoticed. Fans picked up on it, speculating whether the two might eventually bury the hatchet. Meanwhile, Aja kept pushing forward, focusing less on the feud and more on the future. Her efforts paid off in unexpected ways. The Game Changers initiative gained traction, attracting sponsors and media coverage. Local businesses donated gear and funding, while parents raved about the positive impact it had on their kids. On the court, Aja continued to shine. Her team faced tough competition, including a rematch against Caitlin Clark's squad. The stakes were high and the pressure mounted with each passing quarter. Caitlin dazzled as always, sinking impossible shots and drawing gasps from the crowd. But Aja held her ground, anchoring her team with leadership and grit. Though they ultimately lost the game, Aja earned widespread respect for her selflessness and determination. After the final buzzer sounded, Caitlin approached Aja with a warm smile. "You killed it out there," she said, extending her hand. Aja grinned, shaking it firmly. "So did you," she replied. "Keep doing your thing." In that brief exchange, there was no rivalry, no bitterness, just mutual admiration and respect. Back home, Aja reflected on how far she'd come since the start of the season. She had weathered criticism, clashed with one of the biggest personalities in sports, and faced doubts about her vision for the league. But through it all, she had stayed true to herself and her values. The feud with Barkley had tested her, but it had also strengthened her resolve. She realized now that growth often came from discomfort, from being pushed to prove your worth. As she scrolled through social media that night, Aja noticed something surprising. Among the countless posts praising her charity work and performance, on the court there was a tweet from Charles Barkley himself. It was short and simple. "Props to Aja for putting in the work. Keep inspiring those kids." No sarcasm, no jabs, just acknowledgement. Aja stared at the screen for a moment, unsure how to feel. Part of her wanted to brush it off as insincere, another calculated move to save face, but another part of her recognized it for what it was, an olive branch. Whether Barkley truly meant it or not, his words carried weight. And maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of a truce. With a deep breath, Aja closed her phone and leaned back on her couch. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. The WNBA still faced challenges, from pay disparities to limited media coverage. But she believed in the power of unity, of teamwork, of lifting each other up. And as long as she had that belief, and the support of her teammates, coaches, and fans, she knew they could overcome anything. It was a crisp autumn morning when Aja Wilson received the email. At first glance, it seemed like just another invitation to appear on a sports talk show, something she had done countless times before. But as she read further, her eyes widened. The subject line said it all. "Let's settle this once and for all." It was from Charles Barkley. For weeks, their feud had simmered in the background, occasionally reignited by tweets or offhand comments during interviews. Yet beneath the surface, there was a quiet shift happening. Barkley's acknowledgement of Aja's charity work had opened the door to something neither of them expected, a chance to move past the conflict and find common ground. Intrigued, Aja accepted the invitation. The day of the taping arrived, and the atmosphere in the studio was electric. Fans packed the audience, eager to see how this highly anticipated showdown would unfold. Cameras rolled, lights blazed, and the host introduced both guests with a mix of humor and anticipation. As Aja took her seat across from Barkley, the tension was palpable, but so was a hint of curiosity. "All right, let's cut to the chase," the host began, leaning forward with a mischievous grin. "Charles, you've been pretty vocal about your views on the WNBA. Aja, you've stood your ground too. So what's the deal? Are we settling this today?" Barkley chuckled, glancing at Aja. "Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've learned a lot over the past few months. And maybe, just maybe, I got a little carried away," the audience murmured in surprise. Aja raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical but willing to hear him out. "Go on," she said, crossing her arms playfully. Barkley leaned back in his chair, his tone unusually sincere. "Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I was wrong about everything. Stars matter, that's just a fact. But I underestimated something important. What Aja's been doing with her charity work, with the Game Changers program, that's real, that's impact. And honestly, it made me think. Maybe the WNBA doesn't have to choose between star power and teamwork. Maybe it can be both." Aja blinked, caught off guard by his words. She hadn't expected an apology, or at least not one this heartfelt. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Finally, she smiled softly. "You're right about one thing. Stars do matter. Caitlin proved that, and so have plenty of other players. But you're also starting to see why the league is special. It's not just about one person. It's about everyone coming together. The players, the fans, the communities. That's what makes it unique." The two exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. The hostility that had defined their earlier encounters was gone, replaced by mutual respect. The audience erupted in applause, sensing the significance of the moment. Even the host seemed moved, nodding along as he summarized their points. "But let's talk about the future," the host interjected, steering the conversation forward. "Where does the WNBA go from here? How do you balance celebrating individual greatness while still honoring the team dynamic?" Aja thought for a moment before responding. "It starts with telling our stories. Every player in the league has a journey, a reason they play. Some are stars, some are role players, but all of them bring something valuable to the table. When we share those stories, when we show people who we really are, it helps fans connect with us. They see themselves in us, and that's how you grow a league." Barkley nodded, chiming in with his own thoughts. "And yeah, marketing matters too. You gotta highlight the big moments, the jaw-dropping plays. But I get it now, you can't ignore the bigger picture. The WNBA isn't just a collection of individuals. It's a movement. And if I came off as dismissive before, I apologize for that." The room fell silent for a beat, the weight of his words sinking in. Then, slowly, Aja extended her hand across the table. "Apology accepted," she said, her voice steady but warm. "But don't think this means I'm letting you off easy next time we disagree." Barkley laughed, shaking her hand firmly. "Fair enough. Just promise me one thing. Keep doing what you're doing. The league needs more people like you." As the segment wrapped up, the audience gave them a standing ovation. Cameras captured the moment, freezing it in time. Two strong personalities who had once clashed but now stood united in their belief in the WNBA's potential. Social media exploded afterward, with fans praising the unexpected resolution and calling it a turning point for women's basketball. In the days that followed, the ripple effects were undeniable. Viewership numbers for WNBA games continued to climb, bolstered by renewed interest from fans who had tuned in because of the Barkley-Wilson saga. Sponsors lined up to partner with the league, eager to align themselves with its growing popularity. Even casual observers found themselves drawn to the drama, the talent, and the passion that defined the sport. For Aja, the experience was transformative. She had entered the season focused on defending the league she loved, only to emerge with a deeper appreciation for its complexity. Yes, stars like Caitlin Clark brought excitement and visibility, but the heart of the WNBA lay in its ability to unite people, players, coaches, fans, and communities around a shared love for the game. One evening, as she sat courtside watching a playoff game, Aja reflected on how far the league had come. The arena buzzed with energy, filled with families, young girls clutching basketballs and die-hard fans cheering for their favorite teams. On the court, Caitlin dazzled with her signature flair, while veteran players showcased their grit and experience. It was a perfect blend of individual brilliance and collective effort, the very essence of what made the WNBA special. As the final buzzer sounded and the crowd erupted in cheers, Aja felt a surge of pride. This was more than just a game. It was a testament to resilience, determination, and the power of community. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew the league was stronger than ever and ready to take on the world.